Welcome to the SIVA panel. You guys at the rave tonight?
What?
Anyone at the rave last night? All right, well, this is our retrospective panel on the past, 7 years of SiIvaGunner, though mostly the new stuff that we haven't covered at previous MAGFests. Now, some of you might be wondering what SiIvaGunner even is, so let me give you a brief introduction. Basically, SiIvaGunner is a YouTube channel that just uploads high-quality rips of video game music.
Oh, yeah. Wait. That's what we do. Yeah.
Well, all right. So the channel is actually run by this guy, this big marble statue from the Netherlands. Oh. Can we get next?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Oh, wait. All right. Let's drop the act a bit for the panel. Let's just introduce ourselves first.
Okay.
Let's start with.
Oh, okay, we're starting over here. Hi. So I'm Dirty Spaceman. Yeah, I started out as a fan back in 2016, got on the team in 2017, and have been backroom or part of the team management since 2018. And yeah, now for this guy.
Hello, I'm RH Man, or otherwise known. Otherwise known as QR Scan. I became a Ripper in 2018, and I became backroom in 2019.
All right. Hi, my name is Maggie. I joined the channel in 2016. I became backroom in 2020. So yeah, let's go on to you.
Hi, I'm Dante. I've been around since the very beginning of the channel, but I was backroom, I believe, in 2016. I do mostly all the music direction stuff and whatnot. So, what's up?
And I'm MTH, or Emma. I've been with the channel from the very start, and I'm currently acting as the head manager.
Yeah. And then we got SiIvaGunner over there.
All right.
Oh, and of course, we got SiIvaGunner himself.
Yep.
He needs no introduction.
All right. So,
take it?
Yeah, I can talk about this now.
all right.
Yeah, so here is the first peek behind the curtain is our rip flow. So when you get into the team, or the fabled SiIvaGunner team, you start out as a Ripper. This gives you access to all of the necessary submission channels, and you can submit rips and people can give you feedback on what you want to fix. And QOC, or Quality of Control, is the group of the team that is the quality control, and they give feedback on a lot of the rips that the Rippers make, and they decide what is high quality enough to go on the channel. Backroom, or all of us, and the rest of the managers, we do a lot of the head management. We decide projects, and we approve everything that is shown to you guys on the channel.
All right. Hey, before we move on, I just wanted to quickly mention that we're doing a Q&A session at the end. If you scan the QR code, it'll bring up a form, and we'll read off of those at the end of the panel.
I'm using QRs.
Yeah.
All right.
So, to elaborate, so this is the quality control, is where we listen to the rips that get submitted to us and we decide whether we want to smash or pass. So we use these emotes because we use Discord to actually approve and reject submissions, and we have a lot of the QOC team that provides a lot of different feedback in order to make everything as high quality as possible. And I think something that's really unique to our process is that we have some distinguished team members who are really who excel in certain areas with different jokes or different games we hold a check for them with the stop sign over there, and they give special gold checks to make sure that things are peak quality. And this also goes for our email, which you can see here. This is like, as you can see, we receive a lot from the timestamps over there. We get like 10 a day, and we use tabs to organize it. So if you want to send us a rip, make sure to send it to us at highqualityrips@gmail.com. And yeah.
All right, next one?
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, exactly. So once we've gotten a rip submitted and we've approved it in quality control, then the next step is to upload it. And obviously, if you follow our channel, you know we upload often something like 12 rips a day. And part of the way we manage that is by having a upload rotation, or as some would call it, a rotisserie. And so that helps us manage the load of, say, maybe one person uploads one day, one person uploads the next. Some people might just get greedy and decide to upload an entire month, but hey, less work for me when that happens. So it makes the load manageable. You're uploading maybe once a week. And another thing that we have to make it easier is this program called the High Quality Ripper and Scheduler, which in addition to having the benefit of giving you a granddad icon on your computer, just is an amazing tool that lets you just basically copy paste in the metadata, the audio link, the logo link for the game, and just you hit upload and it, as some would say, it just works. And we have our great team and backroom member Modder at 112 to thank for that original software creation. And so that's basically how the channel works, and everything except how to actually make a rip. But we've shown that in the past on our live ripping panel, and we hope to have that panel at some future MAGFest again. But yeah, now that we've seen the day-to-day operation of the channel, we want to talk about some of the more special events and productions that we've had on the channel in the last few years.
Such as?
So, during a short period in which we couldn't upload to our channel, we actually decided to run this little tournament where people could vote on their favorite characters to take over the channel for a day. It was called the King for a Day Tournament, and during that time we actually started also uploading original remixes and arrangements to represent these characters as if it was like basically a game itself, even though it was really just music. When we brought it back for a sequel, the King for Another Day tournament, we made everything bigger, basically. Double elimination, double the characters. And we had this fun little website called the Mojo, where we had exclusive interviews with characters, fun interactions, a lot of fun writing there. If you remember the Smash Bros. Dojo, it's kind of presented like that. The winner of the first tournament was an awesome little camera called Unregistered Hypercam 2. And he got a little takeover. And the winner of the sequel tournament was DJ Professor K. So for DJ Professor K, we actually took a slightly different approach to the event than what we usually do for takeovers, which is just upload like 24 hours of themed content to the channel. But for him, we actually had a 24-hour radio broadcast on the channel. Mostly of brand new content, but also some old stuff, some stuff from King for a Day, and some older rips. But one of the new things that we did for this is that we actually had original Jet Set Radio style music on the channel, as well as remixes of other games in that kind of style. And these were not just contributed by our regular team of rippers, but also the team of arrangers that we've been building up with the King for Another Day tournament.
So, with both of the tournaments, basically how it worked, that it was that each contestant had Basically, each contestant had their own list of sources that people could use as like the basis for their arrangements and remixes, which allowed for a huge opportunity of different styles, different kind of all sorts of remixes of all these different characters. But after the first tournament, we wanted to kind of expand the roster of our arrangements to encompass more than just the inside team of Rippers at the team. And so we sought to reach out to a lot of musicians, composers, remixers, DJs from outside of the sphere. So special shout outs to one of our backroom members, Crystal Force.
We are Crystal Force.
Crystal Force really was one of the driving forces, really reaching out to as many people as we could find to just ask if they wanted to contribute like 1 or 2 remixes and arrangements to this event. And so some of our notable contributions include people like CG5, who you may know as the big Chungus song guy. We have Android 52, Johnny Atma, who does game metal. We had Rob KTA, Garrett Williamson, Mode 7. We even had J Music Ensemble get together to do an original arrangement and record that in the studio just for KFAD, which was insane.
And it kicks ass.
And Triple Q came back for us with this event. And so many other people came together just to get together in this huge remix arrangement event. So King for a Day, the first tournament, had around 97 original remixes and arrangements by the end of it, whereas the sequel had a total of like 500 or so, like more than 500, which is an insane amount of things to have for like a fan tournament, basically. But yeah, so after King for Another Day, we had like an entire team of talented arrangers and remixers that we didn't really want to go to waste. We didn't want to waste those connections. So we kind of sought for an additional outlet to keep making original arrangements and remixes, which leads us to Sgfr. And
But my original idea for some kind of outlet to upload these original remixes under was a fictional mahjong game that would supposedly have crossovers with like everything ever. So you could basically just remix anything you want and put it under that. Concept ended up being a little bit too niche and hard to work out, but the desire for some kind of way to upload original stuff like this just eventually manifested into Sgfr.
And yeah, so yeah. Sgfr as like a collective started as like an offshoot of the original arrangers that we had for KFAD. And so instead of kind of going through the effort of doing like an entire thing, we decided having this like mini record label of sorts would just be the simplest solution to like be able to put out these kinds of content in mostly like highest quality possible. And so Sgfr members are also responsible, as we said before, with contributing some of the remixes for the DJ Professor K event. And next slide. So far, Sgfr has had 7 albums. The first one was the Snowhalation one, early 2021, I believe. And the last one we put out was the Rip Squared, which is basically an album full of original remixes and arrangements of high-quality rips that were on the channel. Which is a really cool concept, and that came out around October of 2023. We have a few more cooking up in the at the moment that you just gotta stay tuned for, I guess.
Next one?
Yeah.
Okay. So for our next big project, I guess that we're going to spotlight here, we have the Space Jam Charity Slam, which was probably one of the greatest things we've ever done. We promised this in 2020, and it eventually did end up coming. We made around $16,000 for the Equal Justice Initiative, which was far more than we could have ever expected, by the way. And so, but the actual production of this was absolutely crazy. It was hectic. It was everywhere. We had to massive shout out to T-Mags and MBluet for getting this all ready at the last moment because we didn't even know if we were going to end up doing this. So here's our workflow. Regardless, it needs a little bit of explanation, but this is essentially how we had it all set up in the Ripper server. We had a bunch of queues that were for requests that were coming in through Tiltify. We had a bunch of stuff of Rippers making Slam mashups themselves, and it was just absolutely amazing. It was probably one of the best things we've ever done. So thank you to everyone who participated and everybody who donated also.
Okay.
And a shout out to Hangman, Inverse, the two other DJs, Solar Sonic and Vault Hunter, who were there at the place where the event was run.
And the meta.
And I get.
I'm sorry.
Okay, but also, if you're unfamiliar with this project, it was a 50-hour stream where we played 50 hours of Space Jam mashups over every song you can imagine. So, hopefully we'll see some more of that stuff again. So, next.
Okay.
So the next big project that I guess we were all spotlighting is the festivals. These were huge super events that were hosted, and we had multiple different takeovers and different events as a part of them. So the first one of these was in 2020, and we used this really to clear a lot of our ideas that we had on the back burner. And it was super helpful because, COVID-19 had just brought everybody at home, so everybody was listening and watching the channel. And we had so many cool events that we really wouldn't have the motivation to finish otherwise. We had a We Are #1 Fusion collab, which had been in progress for multiple years. We had a Totina's Mania mod, and that's not even... There's so many other things that you should just go check it out if you possibly can. Okay, yeah. Okay, I don't really know who put that.
I think the link may have leaked to the slides.
So one of the things that happened during that first festival was Woodiana Stones, which was a audio drama that was included on our Volume L album, which was basically just stuff that wasn't on albums, but the reason why it existed was to act as sort of like chapters for like different rips, for example, that were taken down off of YouTube or had other stuff happen to them. So it was this story where Woodman was cast as like a Indiana Jones character going on an adventure for the Lost Rips. The original concept was done by Smokey, and I ended up writing it and editing a lot of it and just kind of being a general producer, director on it. Going back to it, it's a little rough because it was kind of the first time we had done something like that, but I do think it was an important step in setting a precedent for other similar projects. Like this was the first one where we had like a lot of voice acting and audio editing and stuff like that, and we kind of expanded on that format in the future with some like Halloween events, which we will talk about in a bit. But yeah, that's a little bit about Woodiana. Feel free to check it out, although I think there's probably a little better these days. Moving past that, though, past like Summer Fest, after that, in the winter of 2020, we had the SiIvaGunner All-Star Winter Festival, which it was basically, it wasn't quite like a repeat of the summer one, but it did have a lot of that sort of clearing out old events. For example, we had we had a CCC side episode. It was the first. It was when the first Sgfr album came out. We had the Maria Takeuchi 11 Minutes of City Pop collab. We also had other projects such as the long-requested Toho album. And on top of that, we also had Paper Jams 2, which was a follow-up to the first Paper Jams, which was a collaboration. Shout out to Pinky. Yeah. And on top of that, we also had other albums such as our Grinch album from the
Shout out
previous
to the
Christmas,
Grinch.
as well as some events for like the day Panty and Stocking ruined Christmas, for example. So it was a lot shorter, but it did have its quality contents. Moving past that, though, we have this
So,
one.
yeah, back one slide, yeah. So the third fest we did was summer of 2021, and this was sort of an evolution of the first two, continuing the trend of, getting events that we'd been working on for some time out the door, in addition to some new ones that came up at the time. This was sort of where the scope and complexity of the fests started to reach its peak. There was a lot of production value and effort put into this fest, including videos that went between each event to introduce them and see off the old one. Everything was themed around, cowboys. Woodman was cast as a Ranger of the West, as you might notice there. And if we go to the next slide, we'll see some of the events that happened here. Yeah, we covered a few. I mean, this was when the Space Jam Charity Slam came out, so you see gangster Charles Barkley on there. We finally released a Beatles album that had been in the works since 2017. If we go to the next slide, we got out a few other events, including the Gabe Over. And our second Sgfr album, Superstar Symphony. So this was huge, and I mean, as you can just see from the art here, and the fact that we had all these videos connecting all these events, the scope of this was huge, and it sort of got to the point where we were thinking, how can we take this further? Can we take this further? And we were starting to think it might be time to wind down the concept of the festivals, simply because they'd just gotten so big and so busy, and it was like a ton of work. But that brought us to 2022,
Where we had?
where so after taking a couple seasons off, winter 21, we just had a very stripped down holiday event. We didn't do a fest in summer of 2022, but what we did have was two of our team members, Graham Bam and JP, did come up with a concept for a festival to end all festivals, the Nuclear Winter Festival. And for a while, we were in a tight spot figuring out what the scope and what the story of this fest would be. So I kind of came in and helped them out with sort of the writing of this story. The concept art here, some of it was used, some of it was not. You're going to see a little bit of behind the scenes of some of the unused story ideas that were there before in the original outline. For example, you see a zombie showdown in the middle of a city. I think that's Dr. Piccolo in the middle of it. Also just this library forgotten lore hunting. That was ultimately not used because we focused on sort of more like a wasteland wandering aesthetic, which you'll see on the next slide after this. But the original third wheel in the story to Woodman and Joke Explainer was this little Furby-looking creature called Tattletale. I decided to replace it with a more active character in Gino. He deserves some screen time, I thought.
After getting bodied.
After getting bodied in KFAD, yeah. And yeah, next slide. I think honestly, it was the aesthetic and visuals of the fest that carried it in such a big way. It was really cool and made it really memorable. In addition to the fact that the final closing video of it, which we called My Last Message, was the last video on the channel for a while, and I think a lot of people might have seen it without context. So it may or may not have been intentional. But yeah, if we don't do another fest, I think we're all pretty happy with how this one turned out as sort of the the apocalypse of all festivals.
So, moving on from that, shout out to that Bored Ape, by the way.
Yeah. Sadly, we couldn't get him in. We didn't have the funds, sadly, but...
Yeah.
Anyway, so moving on from the festivals, let's talk about Halloween. So I've personally been involved with a lot of the Halloween events on the channel the last couple years. So one of the ones that I talked about, I think I mentioned that it was like after Woodiana, we kind of decided to keep doing some of the audio drama format. So what we had after Woodiana was Curse of the Fallen Angel. Shout out to the people who listened to it, but so that year, do you want to take some of this space, Matt?
Oh, sure, yeah. So that year we had, the concept came originally in 2020. There was going to be sort of this carnival idea where the Halloween protagonists were at this sort of haunted, creepy carnival. That ended up turning into this fallen angel concept, and we had an external writer who came up with the original script and outline, but I came in and helped finish it and see it through to what it turned out to be. It ended up being sort of this road trip story, and we brought in a lot of kind of funky characters that were relevant, some of them at the time, some of them a bit more evergreen. It's the only time we've done a really long-form audio drama, really built on the Woodiana Stones one from before, and we brought in a bunch of external voice actors, actually, for this, and it was some of the most incredible work we've seen in terms of audio and voice. It was the most involved we've ever been, for sure, with voice acting, and not only did we get some just great independent talent, including one of the highlights are the amazing Germa impression that was done. We also got the man himself, Tony Zaret, to voice Big Chungus. So if you haven't heard Curse of the Fallen Angel, which you probably haven't, considering it doesn't have the most views, I would recommend it for that and the fact that, what more can you say about a story that ends in a final battle against the singer of Yankin? That's Curse of the Fallen Angel.
Yeah. So after Curse of the Fallen Angel in 2022, we had kind of a smaller Halloween event where it was just Woodman having a house party while Dr. Wiley's away. That one was fun. The year after that, we kind of hopped back into the sort of a Curse of the Fallen Angel sort of format, which was the Cult of Proto. So the Cult of Proto, I call it an audio drama, but it has more of a kinetic novel quality to it, where it still had the voice acting. Takane is kind of writing her diary about her in this sort of H.P. Lovecraft Shadow over Innsmouth kind of quality story. So I didn't get to work on this a whole ton just because I had some other stuff that I was dealing with, but I did come up with the concept, and a lot of the writing was done by Jaiko Music and Smokey. I think maybe one other person. So we also had... So for the story, we ended up bringing back Protogent, who, as you might remember, died several years beforehand and was brought back later as this kind of abomination. So this concept art is all by Morlem. This is some of our visual references. We've got Bonzi Buddy up there.
Shout-outs to Bonzi Buddy.
So yeah, was there anything else you wanted to say?
Oh, I guess also, and the You Are an Idiot concept art was done by, I think, Red Heart Pink,
Yes.
right? Yeah. And yeah, so, but this was a crazy Halloween event. We had, we allowed Windows and operating system rips on a complete whim because we thought it kind of fit this theme of, you know, having Windows errors because it was all sort of themed around desktop corruption. But, you know, and it was great. So I recommend everybody go check it out. But otherwise, I think, are we done with all the, you know, story stuff, like lore stuff on the channel?
Yeah, I think that's it, right?
I think that's I think that's all.
that might be it. Hey, before we
Nothing
move
else.
on, speaking of corruption or whatever, shout out to Vinesauce Joel, who we managed to get for this project. All right, but yeah, I think we're done with the story
I
stuff.
can't think of anything else.
Yeah, are we?
Okay, yeah. So this was a thing. It's Christmas Comeback Crisis. You know, been in production since 2016, and yeah, we finally released episode 11 for the. Well, not quite for Christmas, 2023, but you know there was good reason for that, considering. You know, this was one of the biggest productions that we've had in years for a single video, and I'll get into a little bit of the background of how this came to be and maybe why it took so long. So in 2017, at the end of the year, was the last time we released a mainline episode of the Christmas Comeback Crisis. And by 2018, 2019, there was a tentative script complete and a tentative outline for episode 12, but we never moved ahead with production, mainly because we just couldn't quite agree on the ending of episode 12. There was just like just how it would go, the impact on the channel, and because of that, and because we had King for Another Day, we had all these festivals over the next few years, we kind of let it sit on the back burner. But finally, for season 7, the Year of Granddad, in 2023, we decided we would make an effort to actually finish the CCC. And so that was when I sort of came in on the project, and having only really done one CCC episode before, having written the election side episode, it was a bit of a learning curve. I had to, you know, learn the lore a little bit more than I had before. And but yeah, based on the existing 11 script, I went with that, touched it up, add some extra scenes, and episode 12. Well, I'll get to that, but it was really cool to resurrect the project, and the production was, I mean, just kind of incredible. We had over 100 original art pieces, including the ones you see there, just a tiny sample, and the music was insane. Like, it was amazing. I mean, not to toot my own horn, and I'm not, because it's other people doing all this, right? Like, the upside of the long wait between episodes is that the improvement in the skill of our music, our art team, just was astronomical over the years, and the level of quality in this episode is something that, like, blew me away. I didn't watch any of the drafts after writing it. I just didn't want to spoil myself, and when it came out, I was just like the rest of the fans watching it for the first time, and I was blown away. So it really, I think, is just a testament to the evolution of SiIva and how far we've come as a channel, as a team. So kudos to everyone on the team that worked so hard to get this episode out, and yeah.
Next panel?
And now to pass it over to Dante, who's going to talk a little bit about the music production for the CCC.
Oh yeah, we forgot to mention. Here's some
no, wait, you're
concept
right.
stuff.
There is a bit of concept art first. This was a little bit of unused concept art. Spoilers: they fight the SiIva AI in the episode. That came up with in 2018, so we're not trying to be topical, but it worked out. There was the idea of an extra stage of the fight where the AI summons Lady, who's you might know behind the song Yankin. And we ultimately, for just time and for complexity and writing reasons, we didn't fit this into the script. But there was also this idea of during that fight, the background screens would have represented other events on the channel. The only reason we didn't go with that is it would have been a little hard to coordinate visual consistency between the art pieces. But yeah, there's a little bit of what could have been for the episode, a little bit behind the scenes, trying to deliver that good stuff to y'all.
All right, and now we'll talk about the music.
Yeah, so CCC, we don't just use like rips and whatnot for the soundtrack for the episodes. We also have a small selection of original music composed by me and a lot of the other people in the team. So, so during the initial production of the first 10 or so episodes, the CCC never really had the need for an original soundtrack. It was kind of something that was a spur-of-the-moment decision, like, what if we did this? What if we decided just have a few original tracks? Because otherwise, we would just be reusing existing high-quality rips, existing songs and tracks from existing like shows and whatnot, and games. So there was this kind of why not attitude going on within the team at that point, because it was around 2016 and whatnot. I decided it would be really cool if I could use this opportunity to kind of practice just writing for the screen, writing for something that would be shown to people that would have visuals and whatnot. And so occasionally we would find a spot to use these original tracks in their initial 10 episodes or so. If you're familiar with the song Voiceless, it's an original song that we wrote for episode 8, I believe. That idea kind of spurred from me just randomly going, hey, what if we had like a Sawano-style vocal song randomly show up in the middle of an episode? I made the concept, I threw it into the back room. We got people like Wolfman and MTH kind of got together, made the entire production, original lyrics, original music, live guitars and bass, really cool production overall, and that all came together as like the culminating insert song, if you're familiar with like anime terms, for that episode. And that aside, on occasion we would also find original tracks coming from some of our backroom members. I believe MTH made a track. Beach Shoban also did a track at one point, which was really cool. But moving on, nowadays in episode 11 and also coming up with episode 12, we've kind of stepped down. I've kind of stepped down with the production of the original music because I just unfortunately got a bit too busy. But to kind of pick up from where I left off, we have a really huge amount of contributors from the actual SiIvaGunner Ripper team who are making original music and remixes for the CCC in my stead. So music production kind of opened up to the rest of the team, and it became a lot more organized. We basically have a spreadsheet with all of the scenes and the cues that people basically claim so that they can score it in their own style. We have like a quality of control team for just the CCC's soundtrack. And as a result of like all of these changes to the pipeline, the soundtrack direction in episodes 11 and 12 are much more refined, a lot more consistent, and honestly, I'm very, very happy and very proud of all of the work that the team has done for the original music for the CCC. And honestly, it's a really cool thing to see. As someone who just kind of on the spur decided in like 2016 to start off this like concept of like original music for SiIvaGunner. So, yeah.
Actually, shout out to the people in the front over here who actually made CCC tracks. If you made a CCC track, can you stand up?
Yeah.
So speaking of episode 12, when I was writing episode 11 last spring, or finishing the script, I also did write the entire script for episode 12, and it is storyboarded and pretty much getting ready for production. So, just kidding, it drops today. No, I'm kidding. It's no promises, but it is coming. It is coming soon, and yeah, get hype. It's not going to be another 5 years this time.
We can only hope.
It'll be 7.
All So the last thing we're going to talk about for now is one of the biggest collabs that we've had. You've probably seen it. It's got over 1 million views. It's in everyone's recommended. That is...
Yeah. So the entire story behind this video is such a huge, long, 1-year endeavor. This collab was probably one of the best things that Modern SiIva has put out. We have a ton of different parts. Different shops from every video game you can imagine are there's a medley of all of them, and it's presented in this video. I cannot explain how amazing this was for production. We had so many great artists, animators, and people making the music behind the collab. So it was just amazing. Huge shout outs to Blookerstein for actually hosting the entire thing. And also huge shout outs to our art team for making amazing visuals for the entire thing, and also our entire Ripper team, everybody who contributed. It was truly amazing.
All right, so before we get to the Q&A, we have one more thing, which is some teasers for some upcoming events. We've got some buns in the oven, and so we're going to talk about them. The first one that we would like to reveal, it's kind of on the niche side, but on February 4th, get ready to match 4 with our Puyo Puyo Day. So obviously we'll have rips from Puyo Puyo, we'll have rips from Mado Monogatari, as well as maybe a little bit of Mean Bean Machine in there. So that will be coming up on February 4th. And for this next one, I'll just let it speak for itself.
Hi, I'm SpongeBob.
Hey, so in honor of the SpongeBob SquarePants 25th anniversary, we're going to have an event on May 1st of this year. And so that will just be Sponge Mania. It'll be Super Sponge. All right. The last thing we're going to reveal for right now, who likes, who's into wrestling here? All right. This one is for you. So, oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, before we get to that, we got
Wrestling, everybody.
Yes. All right, yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So, SiIvaGunner Smash Up. All right, so before we talk about what this is for a bit, I just want to say that it's not a K-fad. There is no prize for this. It's just for fun. But we're going to have like maybe a stream or a premiere where we have, we're going to do one of those videos where it's like the custom WWE game wrestle fights, and we're going to fill it with SiIvaGunner memes and characters, some familiar faces, some really kind of odd pulls, I guess, but just look out for that. The current card, we're going to have, a Grand Rumble. But on top of that, we'll also have a couple under that. So that's going to happen April 4th at 8 o'clock Eastern, which might be subject to change, but it's like right before WrestleMania, so good timing, I guess. Sorry, Impact fans. So scrolling back up a bit, because we didn't really talk about this, if you want to submit to any of our events that we have, or just want to submit to RIPS in general, our email up top, High Quality RIPS, is the one that you send to. We have some guides on how to format emails, which, if you know where to look, they are. Capybara. The other two, if you're interested in joining Sgfr or contributing to one of those, You can send your portfolio to SiIvaGunner Fusion Records at gmail.com. And we are also taking art team applications, so if you're interested in that, sgrteam.business@gmail.com. So yeah, I think we are Gucci for the Q&A. And we're bringing our good friend Cameron up here for this, who's also, you know.
Hello.
Cam, want to introduce yourself?
Oh, yeah. Hi. I'm Cameron, also known as... you might also know me as Half Pixel. I've been a channel contributor since 2016, and I'm here to read out some questions. We got a ton of submissions. Thank you, guys. So let's try and, I guess, move things fast so that we can get through as many as possible. We can't get to every one of them, of course, but starting off, a bunch of people have asked, what are your favorite rips, jokes, and events on the channel?
Go down the line.
Go down the line.
Yeah, sure. Go down the line.
There's this amazing rip of Dragula by Duzu. That's currently one of my favorite rips.
Favorite rips and events, yeah.
My favorite rip is actually, it's two of them. Basically, the original one was Courtesy from Super Hexagon, so it's called Bad Hexagon. And then that got like a remaster rip in 2020, and both of them are basically my favorite rip of all time.
All right. For favorite rip, there's a lot that I like. One that comes to mind is I believe it's the Plot Boss music, but it's Carpenter Brute, which was made by Rice Nut, who I believe might be here. I don't know where he is specifically. All right. Okay, that's fine. Shout out to him, though.
My favorite rip is the Ultimate Show from Super Paper Mario. It's the final boss of Super Paper Mario mashed up with Whip Nene, so. But that's a classic, always will be.
The answer I usually give for this question is Become as Gods from Nier Automata, but with Inspector Gadget. I guess also favorite events was part of the question.
Yeah, let's do favorite events and bring it back down.
I mean, my favorite running gag on the channel is the one and only H.H. Gregg.
I guess my favorite event is in SiIvaGunner's Summerfest 2020. We had Dat Boy Day celebrating everybody's favorite frog. So that's probably mine.
Favorite event, I'm having some difficulty thinking of one, so I'm just gonna go with K-Day. Runner-up being maybe like some of the stuff we had, and I think the first half of 2022 was also pretty good. Like I had a lot of fun with Family Guy Day, for example. I don't know if it's my favorite, but it was pretty good. It was fun.
It's no bias, but I think King for Another Day tournament's probably my top event in the channel. But I have a soft spot for Silento Day, Rip and Nene.
I'm going to have to give it to the hamster dance.
What about you, Cam?
Me?
Yeah.
I gotta say K-Fed. I
Nice.
think that was just incredible. Incredible event. All right. Will Smug asks, K-Fed 2 was an absolutely massive project that involved working with a lot of submissions. What lessons would you say Backroom walked away with going into Sgfr?
I'm not sure.
The answer is no lessons.
So K-Fed 2 is extremely straining for us. We basically, a lot of us had to basically work overtime to make sure everything was running smoothly. So that's why Sgfr, in its onset, is a lot more of a streamlined process. We're just submitting remixes and arrangements to an album. There's nothing to do with production. The fact that that alone is so simplified kind of already helped like make it a lot easier for us as a team, I think.
Yeah. And one of the things that's probably closer to KFAD in production and scope would be the festivals. And those, yeah, we I think tried to learn some lessons there in terms of just our workload, our relationship with our team and the artists. But ultimately, yeah, it's very easy for scope creep to happen and very easy for things to just become a lot of work. So it's something that's still, we're still learning, but we, probably are not going to have anything as huge as KFAD for a little while.
Alemin, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, asks, will there be more SiIvaGunner post-CCC?
No comment.
So
Stay tuned.
Yeah, no comment just yet. We'll see.
Right.
yeah. Next question.
Axe asks, how do you stay on top of trends or make sure gags aren't going stale? And what do conversations do when there's a disagreement on creative direction?
We actually really appreciate that question because we beat every single joke until it's dead. So pretty much the only time, or I guess a joke has gone stale is when the last person gets tired of using it, and usually that's, after a year or two. So but we like to keep up with things. A lot of people have been getting really into using a lot of new jokes in rips, and that's always super appreciated.
Ian asks, how are fusion collabs decided upon and put together?
Hey, fusion collabs are usually, a lot of the time they're pitched by rippers. In the past, I feel like they've had to get a lot of approval. These days, there's a lot of, we still do approve, but there's a lot of self-motivation on the part of the people who are interested. We typically have like spreadsheets with different sections of the songs picked out. People will claim those parts. They'll say what style they're doing or like what jokes they're using if it's more of a mashup one. I guess that wouldn't really be a fusion collab, but anyway. Yeah, I mean, like, there's a lot of order to it. It's basically just people claim parts. They pitch, they get approved, people claim parts, and then it all gets assembled in the end.
Yep. And on occasion, we'll have a fusion collab that has, like, multiple loops, so that if more people want to contribute, then we can just add more loops and repeat sections.
Dr. Bright asks, have you ever collaborated with any of the other channels inspired by SiIvaGunner, like Timmy Turner's Granddad?
I think if you've seen Working Together from Kingdom Hearts, there's a rip that all went up at the same time. So if you're into that sort of stuff, there have been rips referencing collaborations in which we just upload things at the same time. So I guess those have happened. Also, we've seen a couple. Sometimes our uploads reference each other, but
it's kind of funny because there's a lot of nowadays overlap in terms of people that are members of Timmy Turner's Granddad and other channels and Siva, and somehow I feel like because of that, we don't think about collaborating between the channels as much because it's so many of the same people. Like, I don't know, like I've been part of Timmy Turner's Granddad since 2017, and I actually am the voice of Timmy Turner's Granddad. So.
Rex asks, how many rippers are in the audience today?
Y'all stand up?
Y'all stand up, stand up.
Several.
that's a great question.
Right.
Nice.
Buttery asks, what is the best way to acquire sound fonts and MIDIs of old games, and what are some modern-day ways to create rips?
Okay, so there's actually a lot of really good programs out there that allow you to get all the necessary tools. One of them is VGM Trans, which allows you to rip from DS ROMs and those sorts of things. There's also a high-quality ripping guide you can probably find around that has some of the necessary tools and directs you to those places. N64 Sound Bank tool is another one for ripping Nintendo 64 games. Also, a lot of people nowadays, even for rips of games that aren't sequenced even, have just been recreating entire songs, which is absolutely insane. So yeah, but there's a lot of information online, and I think on there's a lot of resources that we put out for that.
Mel from the SiIvaGunner Tumblr blog asks, do you have, asks, how canon are the various audio dramas like Curse of the Fallen Angel, and will its characters show up in the CCC?
So there's sort of like, it kind of depends. Like there's some projects such as Woody Anna Stones which are in-universe movies. I believe like Curse of the Fallen Angel and like Cult of Proto are both considered canon. Basically, there's a bunch of like different universes, as we put it, that allows like different stories to happen without like crossing over into each other. So, for example, the CCC is not the same universe as the Halloween ones, I believe. So that's how that stuff can happen there, and Halloween stuff happens in its own kind of circle without necessarily stepping on, you know, the other story, essentially.
Yeah. So as Maggie said, the Halloween stories and the festival stories, and I think, it's not entirely, we haven't put out like an official guide or anything, and I don't know if we would be able to. It's a little complicated. But anyway, a lot of the stuff that came out, like Halloween and festivals, the way that they're connected to the CCC is, you'd have to watch the end of Doomfest and CCC episode 11 to see a little parallel, a little connection there.
All right.
This will
We
probably
have time for one
Yeah,
more.
Yeah,
I think
one
we have time
more.
for one more. Let's do a quick one. What song gets the most rejected submissions? And that is a question from Benny Blue.
Probably just Circus.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Megalovania, close second.
Yeah.
In the past, I might have said Drift Fills It City from Pokemon Black and White.
All right.
Yeah.
I think that runs us up on time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Okay.
We have 2 albums, by the way.
So there are, in these 2 boxes up here, up at the front, we have 2 albums. We have the Rave album, which if you were at the Rave last night, you can come get your copy and you can listen to it early on Bandcamp.
You can
We
also get it if you weren't at the rave last night.
Oh, yeah, true. Also, we have a exclusive album that we have, Now That's What I Call Quality 3, as the 3rd MAGFest album. You can come grab a Bandcamp download code for that as well.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.